I'm Dana Han-Klein here with Cathy Yan for Dead Pigs.
Which character do you admire the most and why?
I love all the characters, honestly. I think there's a little bit of me in all of them in a way, but I love Candy. Yeah.
I was watching, I was like, Portery, that's me, I got this.
Right.
Like, holding on to that past.
She's probably the most heroic, if there was, she really sticks to her guns, so yeah, you have to admire that.
What would you say the most emotionally or logistically challenging scene was to film?
A lot of, yes, I think both in many ways was that whole slapping section of the film. We shot for 3 days on the roof, so our actress was actually on the roof, and we shot everything live. We had 2 cameras, a crane, a rain machine, about 80 extras. So just organizing that was tough, definitely, and also I wanted 2 cameras because I didn't want the actor who played Wong, who's brilliant, I think, to have to keep doing that. And so we shot, both of them at the same time, but they are actually far away from each other. They are as far as you see in the movie. So, they're kind of, kind of squinting. But I think that, they were still able to play off each other in a real way, as opposed to, if we had green screened one of them, or we just shot them separately like we often do.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to get the authentic reactions, of each other. Yeah.
So it's based on a true story, and I'm curious as to what changed most from the kind of first version of your script and dealing with it to the last iteration that we saw on film.
Right. Actually, honestly, not that much. I immediately knew I wanted to make an ensemble film. I really, love Paul Thomas Anderson and Early Inarritu and the Coen brothers and Altman, of course. And so I knew I wanted that kind of structure. And then I came up with the characters quite quickly, actually. So the very same characters and pretty much their personalities and what really drives them was always the same from the first draft to the end of the film. The things that changed were some of the plot around it, but I was surprised at how much, it wasn't like I cut off the third act or anything like that. Yeah, it was pretty much consistent with the script in that way.
So was there ever an iteration that had an all Asian cast? Because the white character to me is interesting because I get that he represents kind of Western influence there, but I was like, it'd be.
No, I never had an all Asian cast. Sean was always one of the original 5. And for me, it did have to be a white person because my experience in China, I was born in China and then I would go back every year, and then I spent a few years in China as a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. And so I made a lot of friends within that sort of expat community. And I think what people don't realize is that, especially in Beijing and Shanghai, there's a huge, expat community there that influences, the city and is a culture in and of itself, and was something very unique to my experience and something I hadn't really seen in film before. And so that really motivated me to write a character that was part of the world that I saw in China, that expat character, and they exist and they still do. There's plenty of them. And then I also wanted to play around with this idea of race, and how specific it is in China and the way that they see white people, but especially white men. And it's a very interesting, it's not racism per se, because it's not, but
it's infatuation. It's infatuation. Yeah.
But there's an infatuation, but there's also, I think, whether it's positive or negative, whenever you're seen for just, what you look like and not who you are on the inside, it impacts, obviously, her character, and so psychologically and emotionally and whatnot. And so I always found that to be very interesting about Sean, who he is and what he deals with is very internal in some ways.
What would you actually say the biggest difference in China was between when you left and, came back and left and came back? Because it's grown so rapidly.
Oh, that's what the movie's about for me. It's I'm about, I say this story because I think it really personifies it. I was born in a city upstream of Shanghai, not so far. Really, really not that far. But when I when I went back to visit family, because most of my family still lives there, or in Shanghai, in the early 90s, it would take a day on a boat up the river to get there. mostly because they just stopped and it was like the least efficient boat ever. And now it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours on the highway, or even faster on a high speed train. So that's the kind of change that you're seeing. I mean, it's everything. Like, everything has changed in my lifetime in China. And so I think that's what, for me, the movie's about, really. It's rapid change and, like, what happens to your relationships and the people who are part of that change.
Just to go into, like, the business film side of it for a minute, you're approved for distribution in China, right?
We are,
yeah. How did that work out? Because I feel like it's not the most like rah-rah pro-China film, but it's not anti-China, but it's a very honest portrayal of like this evolution happening. And how'd you get that one by?
I know, we got lucky. We got lucky, and I think there's a lot of self-censorship that happens in China. That's what they operate on. They can't possibly censor everything, so they sort of expect people to self-censor, and a lot of people did. And a lot of investors and studios and producers looked at the script and said, "No way, there's no way you're going to get approval." But we went for it, and I think part of it was that I'm not based in China, and so I had a little less to lose, and so I was willing to maybe take that risk. But my producers are based in China, so I think it's about finding the right people, and I think it's exactly that. Like, we weren't trying to create this like dark portrayal of China whatsoever. And I think a lot of people were surprised by the comedy in the movie and the humor of it, but it was just what I noticed and what I saw, and it was neither good or bad. It is. But I do think it actually celebrates the people. Like, I do, I hope that it was a relatively positive but accurate, sort of like realistic portrayal of the people in China.
Has there been a difference in reception between Western and like Asian audiences, or is it just kind of generally like?
I don't know. We haven't distributed in China yet, so I think that would be a very interesting test. And it's probably good and bad. I think like it's a funny place to sit, I think, identity-wise as a movie, because it's hard to really describe it. You don't know whether it is a Chinese film. It's not really an American indie. It's kind of this weird combination that you haven't seen before, and that has worked in our favor a lot. But it's also not, because I think it's really difficult for people to really gauge what it is. And so, we've run the gamut. Let's just say that. I think certain people, Westerners, expect that same type of like dark, deliberate art house Chinese film that they've seen.
They want a Wong Kar-wai film.
Yeah, or like, even our executive producer, Jia Zhangke, his style is very different than ours. And so I think that's a certain type of art house Chinese film that critics or whatnot have expected out of China. They haven't really seen anything like this before. And then vice versa, I think for certain Chinese people, it's weird to sort of see your world and your culture portrayed by someone that you think might not know anything, which is not true. I have spent a lot of time in China, and it's, and journalists exist for a reason, and so I think it's funny sometimes to like navigate that thing and to respect everyone's opinion, but at the same time remind people that, that you're here to tell a story that is authentic to the filmmaker that is telling the story.
I'm curious because you do come from somewhere where theoretically everyone on screen you would have been Chinese, and then suddenly you come to the U.S. and there's Chinese people or Asian people in media. Has there been a time that you've felt represented on screen?
No. I mean, I think that Dead Pigs in a weird way does. Even though it's not autobiographical, but it's highly personal. And I think it's highly personal because it is that weird mix of cultures. And not only was it representative of me, but I think it was representative of a lot of the actors that we casted who do have that sort of bi-coastal or bicultural experience. A lot of our crew members were the same way, whether they were Chinese or not. Like our DP, this really talented guy was Chilean, Argentinian, and went to NYU with me. And so I think a lot of these sort of bicultural, third culture, lost identity people have gravitated towards this film in some ways because it's not so easily definable. So that's been really lovely to see because I've never seen anything like it before, so I guess I just went and made it. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit. Are you vegetarian?
I'm not.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. This question wouldn't work if you were. What is your favorite pork dish?
Oh my god, I love all pork dishes. It's also really odd because I just love pork but I actually did stop eating pork.
I was gonna say, did this impact your meat eating?
I know, but it's Chinese. It's like
that. Yeah.
I'm so undeniably Chinese in my love for pork. Like it's just ridiculous. I mean, everyone eats pork, and it's the main choice of meat there, and so it's not the other white meat. It is the meat. Yeah. I don't know. I like it. I like pork belly. Yeah. It's great.
If you were going to live in a city that had replicated another like world wonder, one of these kind of mega developments, which city?
One?
Yeah, what city would you want? Would you want like a Sydney
question.
Opera House or like the Spanish cathedrals?
Oh, that's a good question. What would I like? I think it would be fun to do like a mini Rio, and then you get the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the little like Christ
clothing
like hospital version. Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety. That's a good.
That's funny.
What inspires you?
Life. People, humans. Like I think my sense of humor and my general sort of outlook is very much like let's just observe and analyze and find the weird, funny, touching, interesting things about human behavior. Yeah.
Frustrates you?
Being underestimated.
How do you relax?
It's hard these days, but I try to go on really go on vacation, not have my phone near me. But it's this line of work. It's not like
you do things at all hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's the weekend.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you really have to just like physically get away.
Yeah.
You can't really just like call it the weekend.
Are you good about how long can you go without looking at your phone? I guess is the gist of the
question. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. How do you define success now versus possibly earlier in your career?
I didn't know what to expect earlier in my career. I mean, I think that I came pretty late to directing. We were talking about this earlier, but I was in a dual degree program at NYU. And even when I entered the program, it was mostly for producing, like an MBA and an MFA. And even in my first year, I thought I wanted to produce. And so that looked different to me. And then it was only really when I started getting into the filmmaking that I was like, wait, this actually sounds like a better job and just much more fun. And so I really got into that. And but it took me a very long time to feel like I could actually do it and feel that I was creative enough to do it. And so I didn't really think I even defined success. I think success early on was literally just like, can I do it at all? Like, can I you sort of have these like mini goals, right? So like success was, can I be happy and make enough money to have a sustainable career in this? Can I even get my first film made? So you're always just kind of like, yeah. And then once that happens, you start thinking like, well, what else can I do?
What is some of the best advice you've been given?
The serenity prayer. Which is great because I think on films, like especially when you're a director, you think you can control everything and then you realize you really can't. You have to pick your battles. And so really learning which battles are worth it.
Was there something on Dead Pigs that was sort of, became outside your control and like that you can particularly remember that you're like, okay, I have to let go and I have to like go with what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of stuff. You very rarely get exactly what you envision, but oftentimes what you do end up getting is even better. So I think there's a lot of that happened. We didn't have a huge budget, and so like at one point the producer's like, "We don't need a rate machine today, right? We don't need a professional rate machine." I'm like, I don't know.
I have a hose,
maybe,
and a tap.
And we did in fact have a hose or two hoses. Hose. And then and two PAs standing there. And it didn't work. I mean, it just flat out did not work. It looked like absolute fake rain. So then we ended up spending more money in post to make the rain look good. And so lesson learned is to do everything you can in camera because you can't
always fix it in post.
Yeah, you can't fix it in post. And if you can, it's going to be more expensive. And at the end of the day, you can't ever pull off. Like, no matter what your budget is, if it looks like shit rain, it's shit rain. You know? And so I think it's figuring out how best to use the money that you have.
What is some of the worst advice you've been given?
I was once told by an agent that there should be some sci-fi in Dead Pigs because sci-fi was really hot right then.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
What is a guilty pleasure of yours?
I used to watch a lot of Tyler's and Kiara's. Great. It's great. It's really funny.
Growing up, who was your favorite fictional hero or heroine? Just in terms of like fictional characters. Could also be a villain.
I watched a lot of Disney movies. Like a lot of Disney movies, like Lion King. I probably watched like hundreds of times. I don't know if I ever gravitated towards one character. Ha! You know, that's, you know, love ensemble movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever been one, but it's really just like, I was an only child, so I watched a lot of movies.
I saw in an interview you said that, frankly, there aren't many role models out there, especially women of color, and especially when you were growing up, Asian women. Mm-hmm. And now you are stepping into a role that is one of those role models. You know, you're directing a huge film, and you're one of like 3.5 female directors, and you're the first Asian one. So, you know, I think that's going to make you a hero to a lot of people. And my question is, what can women and other women of color do to support each other in front of and behind the camera?
A lot of it is just like believing that they can do it. I mean, I've said this story before, but it's like I've been mistaken for help. You know, I've been like everything but the director on set. I think it's really like supporting each other, but at the same time, like, you know, really encouraging the work and not being so broadly, you know, about representation either, because I don't think that works. But yeah, just like maybe putting a one extra level, you know, when you're looking for someone. Like, you invite as many women into the room as men to pitch.
Because on Dead Pigs, a lot of the set, like the department heads were women, right?
Yeah. Totally. My two producers were women. My AD was a woman. And my costume designer was a woman. Like, it was a very female-dominated team, but I don't know if we really ever, like, it was a thing. You know, we didn't really discuss it and decide that was
the goal, is that it should just be like, hey,
right,
everyone has a chance to be the best at their job.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, like, I don't have any regrets hiring a male DP, you know, so it's like, I think it's always going to be this, like, internal battle, too, of, like, you want to do everything you can to support them, but it also doesn't help anyone's cause if that person is actually not also the best person for the job, so... It's tough, but you definitely have to be aware of it.
I feel like for me, it's like, okay, well, obviously that's why they hired you, right? Like, that's why you hire any directors, because you're the best person for the job, and you just so happen to fill like minority things. But I feel like a lot of the kind of public cry out there is like, well, they just want more women, or they just want whatever. It's like, no, you don't make a movie of that scale, or any scale, and not get the best person for the job. Like,
right. I mean, to think that my gender or my race has gotten me anything in this world is a joke. I'll just say
it's great. And I feel like it's a conversation like people of color are capable of having with each other, or like women, but sometimes it's just really hard to communicate that to like the outside world.
Right. And I will say this, which is I don't believe Warner Brothers would have put so much money on the line.
Right.
Just to
be like, check that box.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be too surprising that one day there could be someone who is a female and Asian and a decently talented director all in one person. So
more than decently is why you got the job.
That's my response to that.
No, that's very fair. Yeah.
It's
if you could go back 10 years and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stay in there. It's gonna get better.
And what's one thing you wish you had more time for?
Friends, weddings, things that have to be planned months in advance. I don't have that pleasure anymore. Yeah. things get planned maybe like a month in advance, and then big things get planned like 3 years in advance. But the sort of, the day-to-day,
Free time
social commitments
yeah.
get a little bit lost.
Well, thank you so much. Congrats on the film.
Thank you.